promoting a healthy environment. It's the air we breathe. Clean, safe water. Responsible management of our natural resources. We protect and restore for a sustainable future. Environment matters.
As it gets more oxygen and more venting, the fire increases, but the soil around it, including the original ground, acts like a giant insulator in an oven, and it just keeps the heat in.
Hot, dirty, and dangerous. Crews are digging in to extinguish an underground fire at an abandoned mine site in Boone County. Plus,
we're trying to break that idea that hybrid vehicles are just meant to be like, they're only for the environment. They can't be performance cars.
And they're starting with this brand new Chevy Camaro, but the process is a lot more complicated than just adding a few batteries and an electric motor. Hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Environment Matters. I'm Greg Adolphson.
And I'm Kelly Gillenwater. For the second time in recent months, an underground fire at an abandoned mine site has created an emergency abatement project for the DEP's Office of Abandoned Mine Lands and Reclamation.
This most recent fire is located in a coal refuse pile near Bald Knob in Boone County. The DEP's Jake Lance recently made the trek to the site and joins us now with the latest.
Well, Greg, Kelly, the pile dates back to a mining operation from the 1940s. It's been smoldering for the past 3 years or so. Crews are working to put out the fire, but the real challenge is getting to the source. It looks a little like a road construction project, right into hell. Two giant excavators have created a massive cut into the center of a hot, smoky pile of coal refuse, more commonly known as a gob pile, and are working to get to the root of the fire.
In order to extinguish the refuse, we have to completely excavate it, try to put out any of the visible flames before it's loaded into a truck, then move it by truck to an area where it's spread in thin lifts, sprayed with water as necessary to cool it down below 140 degrees, and then put out. At that point, it's no longer able to burn.
And they still have a fair way to go. So far, the contractor, A&A Energy, has excavated down to about 80 feet from the top of the original pile, with another 40 feet or so to reach the original valley floor. Crews have been working in 12-hour shifts for 4 weeks to reach this point. It's estimated that they will need to move, spread, and quench somewhere between 110 and 115,000 cubic yards of material, 3 cubic yards at a time.
The original pile was actually used as a land bridge in this hollow, and it was still being used the day we declared the emergency for gas companies and the companies to access these areas. 3 years ago, you can see where the logging company was actually using this as their loadout yard. So it was a fairly large, probably 100 yards by 80 yards, just completely tabletop flat on top. So it had been used for a variety of purposes, but it was a true land bridge from one side to the other.
Refuse piles are formed from waste material separated from the coal that comes to the surface from mining operations. Since the separation process isn't 100% efficient, a significant amount of coal remains with the pile. It's that combustible material that creates the problem. Investigators haven't determined exactly what started this fire and say this type of fire can have any number of ignition sources.
It can be anywhere from a logger lighting a set of cutoffs. It can be somebody having a weekend fire not realizing it's a refuse pile. A forest fire can even ignite them. It's just any way you can imagine a fire to start, these can start and then be lit just by one piece of coal, and then it'll move down through it and essentially create a giant oven where it'll burn every piece it can ignite. Once the pile is ignited and the internal coal and other combustibles ignite, they start to draft air in through the soil and through openings, and as it gets more oxygen and more venting, the fire increases, but the soil around it, including the original ground, acts like a giant insulator in an oven, and it just keeps the heat in and will increase and increase until it finally comes out as surface burning.
The oven analogy is a good one. Temperatures at this project have reached 600 degrees, but in other underground fires they can reach a scorching 2,000 degrees. Once this one is put out, the area will be reclaimed.
We intend to go all the way to the original hollow, reestablish the original stream, and contour the sides back as near original as we can and maintain the access on each side. It'll be capped with soil, seeded and mulched. The drainage will be accounted for with grouted riprap ditches. So at the end of the project, all of the area we've disturbed will be seeded and mulched with grass seed and fertilizer.
Crews are continuing to remove, spread, and cool the hot material from the pile. That process will continue for the next couple weeks. Kelly and Greg, by the time the project is finished, it's expected to cost close to $1 million. For Environment Matters, I'm Jake Glantz.
Thanks, Jake. The DEP completed another emergency abatement project this past fall in Whitehall in Marion County. That fire was actually burning in a coal seam connected to an abandoned underground mine. Crews were able to dig down to that fire and extinguish it. The site, which is right in the middle of town near homes and businesses, has been regraded and reseeded. Several trees have also been planted on the site. It's been more than 2 years since a leaking above-ground storage tank at Freedom Industries in Charleston spilled into the Elk River and contaminated the drinking water supply for more than 300,000 area residents.
Work continues at the site to remove soil contaminated by the spill. So far, crews have removed about 6,000 tons of soil. Work started in December and is currently on schedule. It's expected that about 10,000 tons of soil will need to be removed. Air monitors placed at locations in and around the site have not detected any chemical vapors at a level of concern. They're monitoring for MCHM and PPH, the two chemicals released during the Freedom spill. And they're also monitoring for benzene that may have found its way into the soil during the facility's previous use as a petroleum bulk terminal. Excavating all the contaminated soil and replacing it with clean fill material is expected to take about 3 months. The entire remediation project should be finished by late this year. In response to the Freedom spill, the state legislature passed the Above Ground Storage Tank Act. It requires the registration of all above-ground storage tanks covered under the Act and requires tank owners of certain tanks deemed either by size, contents, or location to have a higher potential risk to submit spill prevention and response plans to the DEP.
There are currently more than 10,000 regulated tanks registered with the DEP, and the bulk of those have submitted prevention and response plans. There are some exceptions to the requirement. Tanks that already have a spill prevention, control, and countermeasure plan that meets certain federal regulations, for example. The deadline to register was this past July, and the DEP is currently issuing notices of violations for all unregistered tanks encountered. The DEP's proposed above-ground storage tank program rules will go through the legislative process during the 2016 session.
Reducing the amount of material going into landfills is a problem facing many counties and municipalities. Recycling programs help, but only so much.
That was the problem facing Berkeley County, where the population has roughly doubled in the last 20 years. And with all those additional waste streams, the local solid waste authority was running out of options.
And so it decided to look into an emerging technology called resource recovery. And earlier this month, it broke ground on a new project that's expected to dramatically change the way solid waste is handled in the Eastern Panhandle. It's called Ensorga West Virginia, and it's a joint venture between an Italian firm and 2 U.S. companies. Groundbreaking ceremonies were held January 6th at the site in Martinsburg. When completed in early 2017, the 80,000 square foot facility will be the first resource recovery facility in West Virginia and the first of its kind in the U.S. to use Ensorga's automated mechanical biological treatment that takes garbage, separates out recyclable materials such as aluminum cans, and converts the rest of the organic content into a cleaner burning fuel. It's expected to reduce the amount of waste entering the landfill by 75%. That's about 120,000 tons per year. We spoke with Berkeley County Solid Waste Authority Chairman Clint Hogben, who says the county was looking for an out-of-the-box solution.
So, seeing the growth coming, I mean, we knew we could build transfer stations. We knew, we could transfer it to some other landfill, more rural. But there was on the Solid Waste Authority itself, guys, there was this mindset of, can't we do something different? Can't we do something better than just put this in a hole in the ground? Whether that hole in the ground was here or in Pennsylvania or in Tucker County, it didn't matter. Couldn't we just do something better? And so a lot of energy was dedicated to, let's take landfilling off the table and just look at alternatives to landfilling.
The end product is called solid recovered fuel. The Ensorga process turns out a light, fluffy material with about 80% of the BTU value of coal. The Berkeley County facility will be hauling its fuel by truck to a neighboring cement kiln that will be commingling it with coal currently used to provide heat for the process. The project will provide up to 100 temporary construction jobs, and once it's up and running, up to 20 permanent full-time jobs operating and maintaining the plant.
The facility will receive residential waste from Berkeley, Morgan, Jefferson, and Hampshire counties. Ensorga already operates 5 similar facilities in Europe where resource recovery facilities are a widespread alternative to landfilling.
Coming up, another alternative to landfilling, recycling that used Christmas tree. We'll check out a popular joint project between DEP and the Division of Natural Resources that's having a record year.
Plus, if you think the terms plug-in hybrid and high-performance car don't belong in the same sentence, think again. We'll visit with WVU's EcoCar Challenge team as they work to make over this new Chevrolet Camaro. Those stories and more when Environment Matters continues.